Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views. Myself, Salah Lomakwidi. The time is 21 minutes past 9 Central African time. And we're going to be switching gears now. We're going to be focusing on this awesome, growing international humanitarian mission, which is aimed at challenging the blockade on Gaza. It is drawing global attention, and South Africans are a part of it. I'm talking about the global Sumud Flotilla. I think it is one of the most wonderful, organizations, initiatives that has come up in the last couple of years when it comes to Palestinian solidarity. They describe themselves as the largest civilian-led mobilization to Gaza, and in recent years, they brought together people from all walks of life, activists, doctors, aid workers, lawyers, solidarity groups from more than 100 countries coming together, all with one mission in mind, to break the illegal blockade and the ongoing siege on Gaza. And most importantly, to shine a spotlight on the humanitarian crisis that the Palestinian people are currently facing. But the flotilla has also become highly controversial, with Israeli authorities previously intercepting vessels. We've heard stories of all kinds of abuses when these activists attempt to reach Gaza. There's been detaining of activists, the most recent one being, Tiago Avila and other activists who have been arrested. And it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. But right now, we're going to be joined by an activist. He calls himself an Ubuntu Champion and Humanitarian, Nkosi Zulu, who is a part of the South African delegation, who are also making their way to Gaza to break the siege. He's part of the global Sumud Flotilla and is joining us in international waters right now. We're going to be trying to get insight from him. Why did he join this, really, really wonderful initiative? And I think most importantly, what are his hopes and dreams? What does he see as a victory when it's all said and done? Mr. Zulu, thank you so much for joining us. Kunjanba.
Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. I'm well, and I hope everyone is good back at home.
No, we're great. We're great and really, really proud of you and all other South Africans and everyone that's connected with the Global Sumud Flotilla, with the initiative that you guys have taken and doing the really, really wonderful work of shedding light into what we're currently seeing in Gaza and trying to break the blockade. But I want to bring it back, just you personally, if you can give our viewers a bit more insight on who are you and why did you get involved in such an initiative? Why was it so important for you to be part of the Global Sumud Flotilla?
Like how I said earlier, my name is Nkosi Zulu. I'm just a general, person living in South Africa. Zulu myself, a rural, it's once in the north, and my upbringing right now, I started working, and obviously my the reason we obviously went down to there are study opportunities. You have to move to a bigger opportunity. Today, not forget that we as South African, we are the descendants and survivors of the people that survived apartheid prior to 1994. So there comes a very, important need to ensure that when we or our parents or our grandparents resisted apartheid in South African settings prior to 1994, they did that with an assistance of the international or global world. We can then not sit in isolation and say we obtained our so-called freedom in South Africa. So the oppression that takes place all around the world out of South Africa is none of our business. It is our business. We owe to ensure that the injustices that took place in South Africa prior to 1994, that are still taking place even today. We still beat the activists and the people that will fight against such. So it doesn't only remain within the borders of South Africa. It takes place everywhere in the world. We can speak about, the atrocities and the injustices in South Sudan, in Congo, all the way to the occupied West Bank in Palestine, all the way to Gaza, where there is active genocide in 2026. So it's very important for everyone, not just only me, for everyone to participate at ensuring, that the injustices in this world is met with resistance and, isolation.
Very, very important. I want to touch on, I think, a point that you made, the responsibility that we have as South Africans when it comes to solidarity with people from all across the world that are, suffering the injustice of, colonialism, apartheid, something that we know all so well. But there's a sentiment, as someone who's also very passionate about Palestine and working for an organization that's passionate about Palestine and being Black, when you try and educate people and you try to tell them about what's happening in Palestine and what we should do, especially as majority Black people in this country, and I'm sure you've also gotten this question before, why not focus on South Africa? Why are you focusing on people that are so far away, while right here in South Africa, on the African continent, there's so much injustice? What's your response to that? Because I always find it as a fascinating question that majority of our people still don't understand, that us, particularly as Black and brown South Africans, the freedom that we enjoy today, as you mentioned, is because of international solidarity, and countries like Palestine were at the forefront of that. How do you respond to those that are saying you should be looking more inward, you should be looking at home? Why ukhathalela abantu abakude kangaka?
I'm not going to say this here in downtrodden or down, as if I'm looking down at my brothers and sisters in South Africa, more particularly the brown-skinned or the Black brothers and sisters. But what I find out is, obviously I do get the question a lot, but what I often find out is, I hope, or at least some of us that have been enlightened or that are actually able to look at the global perspective of things, is our brothers and sisters always seek to just look within the parameters of a smaller box. They look into what is called local and petty politics at home, and they do not understand completely that their freedom, or their economic freedom, their holistic freedom, so to say, is basically determined by all the other factors and elements of the global elements or the global events. Now, they will sit and worry at home about, the fact that, you've got foreigners that are taking their jobs, you've got foreigners that are, and that is only, a small, a very small scale of the problems that they have. I mean, this statement on its own, when Nelson Mandela said, our freedom is not completely free without the freedom of the Palestinian people. That statement is so broad enough that if you are a person and you want to interpret it in a way, then you apply, you make application of such statement in our African settings currently. You understand very well that our problems require that we go out of the borders and see what it is that are determining factors elsewhere that influence the local settings. In this way, Salia, if you look at Cape Town right now, when you look at Johannesburg, more especially, I'll just focus on those areas. Now, I just want to zoom into what our sisters and brothers are not understanding that is taking place. In Cape Town, you've got a Zionist entity making ingrains. I mean, in what's the country? Cape Town itself, or Western Cape itself, is basically undergoing the occupation, which is the very same thing that is in the West Bank. Same thing that is taking place in Gaza. In Johannesburg, you've got the security forces, the Zionist security entities. That is actually also making inwards or inroads towards Johannesburg on its own. And if you are saying to me, or you basically say this to our brothers and sisters, that our problems are not far isolated from the problems
Mm,
of the Western of the West Bank people. They do not realize that until we sit in a setting whereby we show them in physical evidence that look at this is what's happening. Look at this is what's happening. Hence, I've had a chance to go and visit West Bank last year, and I made a docu-series to speak in the language that is relevant to our brothers and sisters to say, this is what is happening in West Bank. This is what is happening, in Jerusalem. This is what's happening in Ramallah. This is what's happening in
mm,
Hebron, Bethlehem. So there's a docu-series that, from my side, it's my initiative to say, I'm going to be educating my brothers and sisters in real evidence and in real lived experience so that they are actually able to associate their local experiences with the global experiences and see how there's an interconnectedness into
mm,
this. We in South Africa are not isolated from the genocide in Gaza and from the apartheid that was taking place in West Bank. So it's very important. I was making a video yesterday, Salah, talking about the very same fact while I was on the board because a lot of my friends are asking me about Zulu. We have a problem with foreigners in South Africa, illegal immigrants, this and this and this. Why are you spending so much resources going out to the world and you're worrying about Gaza and Palestine? And my response is simple. It is the fact that we are never going to obtain an holistic freedom in South Africa if we do not take care of what is happening in Congo, in Sudan, in Venezuela, in Cuba, in Gaza, and in West Bank. There's an
mm.
interconnected of oppression, of systemic racism, of systemic apartheid that is taking place in all these areas of the globe, which has somehow a direct influence on what's happening in South Africa.
Most definitely. I want us to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to touch on your visit to the West Bank because there's a lot of propaganda that's being spilled. There are a lot of these junkets that the Zionist lobby, send people to Israel, they send people to the West Bank, and black and brown South Africans, and then they'll come back and tell you, no, there's no such thing as apartheid. We saw it firsthand. You saw it firsthand also, and I want to hear your perspective being a South African, knowing fully what apartheid looks like and the parallels between what we experienced back in 1994 and what is currently happening in the West Bank. And as you mentioned, the interconnectedness of the two scenarios. So I think it's going to be an interesting conversation after this short break. Please stay with us.
Qurbani is an act of worship, a sacrifice made for the sake of Allah. But for some families, it may be the only time all year they are able to have meat. A simple meal, shared, remembered, longed for. This Eid, your Qurbani can reach them. From just 1,300 Rand, you can provide Qurbani meat to families in over 30 countries. Make your Qurbani count for them. Give Qurbani, give love with Islamic Relief.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Hey, Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, bye, you didn't.
Oh, no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Randry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Operation Kurbani, Maulana Timor will once again be taking a trip abroad for Kurbani. Many people in the villages live well below the poverty line and only eat meat on the days of Eid al-Adha. Support this cause at 2,170 Rand for 7 shares or 310 Rand per share. Contact Maulana Timor, Maulana Sajjad, Maulana Hamad or Maulana Abbad on 011 852 6324 or 072 368 6866 or 072 697 0131 or 073 576 9786. All slaughtering will be supervised by a team of foreign and local ulama. Visit www.operationkurbani.org.za.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Barakah Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Barakah's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Barakah makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albarakah.co.za to learn more. Al Barakah, your partner bank. Al Barakah Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
It's a new beginning. It's a new era. Salam Media, humanitarian journalism.
Welcome back to your home of humanitarian journalism. If you're just joining us, we are in conversation with Ubuntu Champion and Humanitarian, Nkosi Zulu, who's part of the South African delegation, who's connected to the Global Sumud Flotilla, as part and parcel of the Global Sumud Flotilla, and they're making their way to Gaza, where they're going to try and break the siege on the people of Palestine and the humanitarian crisis and the illegal blockade that we've been seeing for so many years, that has caused the situation to be what it is right now, where it's just so bad and horrible for the people of Palestine. And Babu Nkosi, thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went on to that short break, I wanted you to reflect on your trip to the West Bank, because as I mentioned, there's a lot of propaganda. You know, the Zionist lobby has these junkets where they send politicians, they send journalists and activists from here, South Africa, and they send them to the West Bank, and they show them quite a different picture to what we know to be a fact about the true lived reality of the people of the West Bank and the people of Palestine. You've been there not so long ago. Can you reflect on that trip and what you saw and the true lived realities of apartheid? And what we as South Africans, I don't think there's anyone that knows apartheid better than we do. Did you see it? Did you feel it on the ground? Did it scream inequality, oppression in the West Bank while you were there?
Selailo, we as South Africans, I've got to give you background. A very summative background into the states at which we as South Africans are heading towards. We are heading to a new type of apartheid, whereby it is mainly formulated by, corruption. And that we are here. That is why I decided to participate in the Global Sumud Flotilla, because if you look into it, even this Zionist entity, it's all based on the corruption of extraction, the corruption of occupying land, the corruption of stealing from people. Now, if you talk about that the Zionist regime or this Israeli regime that models the politicians and that models some African leaders to Israel, it is because obviously it's based on the very same system whereby we now get our very own brothers and sisters that are actually actioning or implementing apartheid. That is no longer based on the color of the skin. That is no longer based on race, but based on corruption, extraction, and an added element of looting. Because all these politicians are just full of looting. They will help any Zionist entity, or they will help any apartheid government that has, or that they share the same ideology of looting, extraction, and just corruption. So if you want to learn or listen to the politicians in South Africa, whether they're black, white, colored, or Indian, all the politicians in South Africa are based on just looting, corruption. So they also the Zionist ideology when it comes to this. So the best person that you can hear from is myself. I'm not a politician. I'm a normal guy. I went to the West Bank occupied Palestinian territory from Jericho. Actually, I went into Jordan, flew through to Amman, took a bus right down to the border, and I crossed over. Immediately from there, you smell apartheid. I know what apartheid is. I was born in 1985. I observed while I was young. Even beyond 1994, we still lived through a system of transformation which had apartheid apartheid sentences all the way through 1996 to 1998. Even today, we still experience apartheid sentences in South Africa with an added apartheid system of looting and corruption, which is now being performed by the very same, skin color of people in South Africa. When I went to Ramallah, immediately what hit me was the boats. You get these very big yellow boats at the checkpoints where this is for Palestinians and this is for Israelis. Immediately, that's apartheid. Is that not what we saw in South Africa when we wanted, different sets of facilities for different races or different groups? Even the roads, there are roads that are being used by the Israelis and there are roads that are being used by Palestinians in Palestine. Now you want a system in 2026. Actually, that was in 2025, last July. You want to tell me there's no apartheid? You want to go there and model yourself in Tel Aviv and have coffee with the Zionist entity and forget what you saw. And as well, what often happens is all these politicians, they go to Israel, they don't go to Palestine, they don't go to Gaza. None of them have actually told us that they visited Khan Yunis. None of them have actually told us that they visited Hebron, where a city is divided by a wall. The whole city is divided by a wall. Even in Jerusalem, even in Bethlehem, cities are divided by a wall. And the young kids, Palestinian kids, the women of Palestine, the men of Palestine are always terrorized by the IDF, day in, day out. And this is what I saw. This is what I know. And unfortunately, I can only speak about what I know and what I saw. And that is exactly what I saw. It's at a temple, actually a church in Hebron. I was with I was with one Palestinian lady and one Palestinian guy, and it was myself and one white guy from South Africa. And when we got into the checkpoint there, the Palestinian lady and the Palestinian guy were told that they are not allowed to enter. I was the only one that was allowed to enter. Why? There is apartheid. It was baseless. That's apartheid. That's segregation. That's isolation. And I can say a lot and a lot in terms of what I saw in West Bank and what I felt and what I heard. All of Palestine in West Bank are terrorized in such a way that they are actually even unable to get to work at times. At any given time, the IOF will just basically just shut those gates, and they're able to get to work. And at times in the afternoon, they could be allowed to go to work in the morning. In the afternoon, they could be shut off and they are able to access their own homes. I went to Nablus. Every street in Nablus is pasted, or there is a poster of him itself. Actually, when I drove into Nablus and Old Town of Nablus, I was looking at these posters and I was like, are these celebrities or are these freedom fighters of any sort when I was told that these are people that have been killed, some as recent as yesterday. When we started walking, I walked down the road in the place. A very young kid, about 6 or 7 years old. He came and he shot because obviously we were sort of like different. He knew that we were sort of like we called ourselves tourists. He came up to us and he showed us a picture of his uncle against the wall. He said, "This is my uncle. He was shot last week." The IOF came and they put bullets on his head in front of him, and that is in 2025. Is that not what we experienced in South Africa prior to 1994, when the Zionists, when the apartheid, because then they want to differentiate. How so? I do not know. The apartheid regime, which was working with Israel regime, was terrorizing the people in South Africa. We could our grandfathers could be sleeping through the middle of the night, and there will be this terrorism act by the apartheid government. They'll be awoken with the boots. They'll be shot dead. Some of them are still missing up until today. It's the same thing that is happening in Palestine, west in Gaza, where it's happened in broad daylight, and we are privy. Actually, we are privy to know that is taking place in Gaza, but we are quiet about it. We are dead quiet about it. I'm one activist from South Africa in Kaizer, and it chooses not to be quiet.
And I think we thank you for those efforts, and thank you for painting that picture. Last question before I let you go. Being part of the global Sumud Flotilla, what does it mean to you, the decision, to embark on this journey, which is known to be very, very dangerous? You have other flotilla activists that are detained, that are being abused, that are being tortured at this very moment while you and I are speaking. How do you even begin that conversation with your family, with your friends and your loved ones, to tell them that you see that place where it's so horrible and people are losing their lives day in, day out? I'm actually going there.
My family knows. Fortunately, they know that I'm a liberator. They know that day in, day out, because they often even overhear me sometimes on the phone, because I'm also a unionist. I represent labor issues now and again. They know that I'm a fighter. Day in, day out, I don't rest. I fight against the injustices. So to them, it's not very sort of like strange that I'll choose to go to Gaza. And myself personally, I always choose to go on the right side of history. If the people in Sudan are being butchered every day, the people in Congo are killed every day, and the people in Gaza and in West Bank are oppressed every day, what makes me different from them? I mean, we are falling under the very same regime that oppresses everyone. Even in South Africa, the people think that they are free, but are they really free? And it's the very same Zionist entity that is actually oppressing the whole world, the whole globe. So I'm as unsafe in South Africa as I am in these boats to Gaza or in Gaza. It's equitably the same. It's equitable. I'm not safe in South Africa. How does it make me safe in South Africa, knowing the levels of corruption that are actually contributing towards the very same thing that we are talking about? The levels of corruption. You don't have SAPS in South Africa. You don't have SANDF. You don't have anything that protects you in South Africa. So how can you say you are safe and you are free? We are not free anywhere. And if we do not fight off the Zionist entity at any given point in the globe, then it means we are doomed. So hence my dedication to fight off the apartheid, the oppression, the colonialism, and the supremacist tendencies will be taking place everywhere. Not only within my home, not only within KZN or South Africa, everywhere else.
Wow, there you have it, Nkosi Zulu. Thank you so much for chatting to us. I know we're going to be chatting again, because we'll be following your journey quite closely here. And all the best, Godspeed, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks very much to you and the opportunity, and thanks to the listeners of Salam Media. Thank you.
Pleasure is all ours. Nkosi Zulu there, talking to us as he prepares to embark with the Global Sumud Flotilla, South African delegation that will be making its way to Gaza to try and break the blockade and to shed light on the injustices that the people of Gaza, people of Palestine are subjected to. And there's nothing to add from there. think is quite clear. The interconnectedness between the realities of everyone else across the globe, us as South Africans, people of Palestine, it's all the same system. And as Nkosi mentioned there, if you can't fight it in South Africa, fight it in Palestine, fight it everywhere else that you can, because it is the same people, it is the same system that is oppressing all of us. Wow, powerful stuff. Continue to follow us here on Salam Media. We're going to be following the Global Sumud Flotilla quite closely. This is going to be a ongoing thing. We're going to be having South African delegates, going to be having delegates from all across the world who are part of the Global Sumud Flotilla. We're talking about their journeys, what inspired them to be part of this wonderful voyage, and most importantly, what would they consider a victory, because it's different for all of them. And we'll be bringing you all of that. All you can do is just continue following us on our various social media platforms and keep watching News and Views, and you'll be getting all those wonderful, powerful stories from those that are trying to make a difference. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you after this.